Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode. This is the Let's Talk Broncos show, and I'm sitting here with Frankie Abbott because it is the
Oh,
Thursday edition of the show. It's the people's favorite, Frankie. And we're back.
the
We're
number
ready
one.
to talk basketball. Yeah, we're ready to talk football right now. Number one, Uno. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Holiday season fully in swing. I got to blast some Mariah Carey today, so we're doing just excellent. Joey, how are you?
Yeah. See, I heard you were at the farmers market today. Was
Oh,
it
of course. It was a nice
Christmas
Christmas
themed?
market. I got some hot cocoa. We got some custom ornaments. It was
Oh
beautiful.
my
There was carolers. There weren't carolers, but it was glorious, Joey. We're just cheerful right now.
Frankie, you're one of those type of dudes that goes door to door caroling, huh?
I do enjoy singing in Christmas. I do enjoy going I'm not a big church guy, but I'll pop in a church and sing some songs. I can't lie to you, Joey. I can't lie to you.
Respect to that. Respect to that. What's going on in the chat, everybody? Hey, Zach's in here. He said the boys are back. We are back. We're ready to roll.
The two
Frankie,
gloves
let's get into some of the
picture.
news, though, man. I want to get straight into the Broncos stuff. That's what we're here for. That's what the people are here for. Nick Bonito is missing Saturday's game. I think this is a big deal. I think a lot of what Vance likes doing in the pass rush, the games up front he likes to do, Nick Bonito excels in. A lot of that is because of the athleticism he does display. You know, being able to bend corners, and that really helps in stunts. The speed in which, okay, I'm blocked up, but I dislodge at the last minute, and I can get to the quarterback faster than the next guy is really special for Nick Bonito as well. How big of a loss is this for the Broncos?
Huge loss. I mean, it sucks because they don't have a lot of depth behind him. I mean, we'll probably have to see a lot more Drew Sanders this week, who's been kind of serviceable in that outside linebacker role, but they just don't really have a lot of depth behind him. And I mean, when we talk about what Vance has done the last few weeks with disguising so many of these pressure looks, having a lot of these varied fronts, and using Nick Bonito as a QB spy for a lot of these mobile quarterbacks, which luckily they're facing Jared Goff this week, so they don't have as much of a concern there. Like, Nick Bonito has been a very essential cog in this defense's kind of return to form. And yeah, I mean, it's a massive loss for them in the run game as well. I mean, he's been a huge factor in a lot of times when teams are trying to run those pulling tackle runs or pulling guard runs where they're trying to, pin down the end. Nick Bonito is simply too fast for a lot of those plays. He's blown up a lot of those naked boots this year. Like, he's just a very effective player at kind of blowing up plays before they can even get started. And Denver's defense has kind of needed that a lot this year. So it'll definitely be a big loss, but a big opportunity for Drew Sanders to kind of show his stuff. And then I know they got rid of Ronnie Perkins today too. So it's a shallow room. And I mean, I think Cooper got knocked up. He's not pregnant, but got knocked around a little bit last week and sustained a little bit of an injury. But so hopefully none of those other guys go down, because then they'll be really like living on life support. And I mean, again, I don't even know if they really have any more active bodies they'll be throwing around out there. Like, I think Incoom was someone I saw maybe get mentioned as like he'll get some snaps, but it's a little rough depth area for that team this week.
Definitely is. It definitely is, especially with Perkins. I didn't really ever like Perkins when he came to the game. I thought he pretty much did everything like not very good. But also at the same time, like, where else do you go? Like, it helps having a body out there, right? Like, I'm not even sure who they're putting in for those snaps, as you mentioned, maybe Incoom. But he got PT, and now he's just not on the team.
Yeah. No, and I mean,
there is crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, Taylor Decker's not playing, but I mean, who's the Lions right tackle? Probably one of the best right tackles in the NFL, Penei Sewell. Like, this is going to be a tough matchup for those edges that have been kind of getting blown off the block on the run game all year when they aren't able to beat the snap. Right. So it's a tough competition. It's like, I really hope Drew Sanders is able to hold his own, but I mean, I won't be too shocked if we're seeing him get knocked back a little bit. I won't be too shocked if, there's some more missed tackles this week, but hopefully they'll be still able to scheme up enough pressures. I'm almost less worried about the loss of Nick Bonito from a pass rush standpoint, just because we have seen Vance be so good at creating pass rush out of thin air. Like, he can just do it with secondary players. He can do it with coaches on the sideline, honestly. It seems like, if he really wants to. But truly, that loss in the run game, I think, is going to be where it's most noticeable, especially against this Lions team that, like the Broncos, likes to just beat the hell out of your front.
Yeah, totally. And then also, we heard Greg Dulcich, right? This is the other part of the injuries, Frankie, is Greg Dulcich came back off of IR. We got all the reports. He's been talking to hamstring specialists. He's been all over the place, Sean Payton said. He's over here. He's over there. We got it figured out, or we think we're trying to figure out, is really what he was saying. Practice was great news. I was excited to see, like, hey, at least maybe if he can play through the end of the season, it'll help for the playoffs if the Broncos get in there.
Yeah.
But now I'm sitting there looking at the injury report a day after his first practice. Foot injury. What the hell is going on, man? This one's like, I don't know. I don't know how much stock I should be putting in this guy anymore. This is the second time this year he's come back from injury. He should be playing and then gets hurt after a practice or two. I don't know. That's something that, like, just freaks me out straight up. I don't know what else to do with Greg Dulcich at this point.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's too bad because, like, it's not like it's the guy's fault, but you talk about, like, this was the year for a lot of these guys that have been here to prove themselves to Sean Payton, because I think we're all pretty comfortable saying Sean Payton is making the decisions going forward. Right. Well, Sean Payton last offseason brought in Troutman. He brought in Manhertz, who were both guys of his who he had in New Orleans. He brought in Lucas Kroll midway through the season. Like, he's now brought in 3 guys who he has experience with, who have now, like, arguably surpassed Dulcich on the depth, not on the depth chart if he was fully healthy, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they are guys who have gotten to build a relationship with this coach because they are available to play. So it really hurts, especially for a guy like Dulcich, who we've talked about for years, has needed to develop as a blocker. He's needed to get more physical. He's needed to kind of work on well-rounding his game. And for a position like tight end, that is one of the hardest to develop in the NFL. I mean, we'll talk about this much more in the draft episodes, but, like, drafting tight ends is really difficult because once you get to the NFL, you're learning 2 positions at once. You got to learn how to block like a lineman, and you got to learn how to run routes and catch like a receiver. It is so difficult, and it's usually much more beneficial for teams to just kind of wait until the second contract and try to scoop one of those guys for the cheap. But I mean, it's just kind of like, we're going to get to know so little about Dulcich by the end of this season. Going into next year, it seems like I don't even know where his spot is on the depth chart, if we're being honest. I'd like to see Troutman brought back. It seems like he's a pretty good buy low, but can kind of do the things you need him to do at least a good floor level. Manhertz is your good blocking guy, but you can get a different guy like that. Like, I think that it's just got to be worrisome for the long-term future of Dulcich, because I don't know how in Sean Payton's eyes you're looking at this guy like, man, I'm still going to make sure I find a spot for this guy on my roster next year, because how can you feel confident in this? And it's completely possible, I will say, like, the foot injury, like, because it is reported from, like, I'm picking it up off of beat writers, so it is completely possible that the foot injury was related to the hamstring this whole time, and maybe it isn't a completely new thing. But as a lot of the beat writers have said, it seems like it's a completely new injury. I don't know why that wouldn't have been listed before. So, yeah, it seems like Dulcich is just, if he gets on the field, he picks up these knocks quite frequently.
I mean, it's all over the place, and it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating to see a talented player like him just never play.
Right. That's a good thing. That's a good point to highlight too. He's a talented player. Like, that really does suck. Like, it's not like this is a guy where we're just like, oh, this bum just keeps getting hurt. It's like, no, man, this would be a very useful weapon for the Broncos passing game.
It would be awesome. It would be awesome. Because he's as much as I want to, I like Troutman, what he's bringing to the Broncos right now. He's cool. I think he's a good to have, stuff like that. But Dulcich is far and better at receiving, at catching the football, getting open, and just being a better receiver than Adam Troutman is. I will tell you, there's never a situation where I want Adam Troutman as kind of my slot wide receiver. Yeah. There's never going to be that situation. There's plenty of situations where I might want to throw Greg Dulcich out there because he's kind of a move tight end. You want to put him out there because he's dangerous, no matter who's covering him, he's a good target. So it sucks, man. And then you brought up, like, how it's hard to learn tight end in the NFL because you're damn near learning 2 different positions. This is why I'm such a big proponent, and I've been saying this on this podcast for a long time now. I wouldn't even worry about trying to draft or develop these well-rounded tight ends. If I'm drafting a tight end, I'm either drafting a specialist or I'm going to go try to figure somebody out in free agency.
You get like the Tucker Crafts in like the 5th round that are like insane athletic outliers.
Yeah. Yeah, or if Evan Ingram enters the draft and I'm like, this guy's going to be a damn good receiver. He's pretty much a slot wide receiver. He's pretty much a big slot. I'm going to throw you in there for a big slot situation. That's all I'm worrying with for you about. You can learn to develop over time at blocking. Hey, that would be tremendous. But I'm drafting a receiver here. That's what I want. Drafting a specialist. These well-rounded guys. Oh, he could block. He could catch command at college. We never actually see him do it.
Unless they come from Iowa.
And then even then, like I think Hawkinson, it took him a while before he started becoming good. Noah Fant, he's still not worth the first round pick in my books. These guys just you know what I mean, Frankie?
No, I completely agree. I mean, I'm very against top 100 picks, and I'm like, it's funny because I've gotten much more like with the Sean Payton. I don't really care about positional value except for tight end. I'm very much like, and especially for this upcoming year, because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people that are like, oh, like that's got to be one of Broncos' top needs in like the draft and everything. And again, I'm very much of the mindset like, no, let's like sign whatever tight end is hitting his second or third contract, who's like 28. Who we can get for a decent free agent deal, who can do the things that Sean wants him to do well. And then maybe if they want to throw like a back end of the draft pick at it, but like the idea, especially when we talk about this offense needing so many playmakers at every position, the idea of using one of their high picks on a position like tight end would just, that's not the move. That's not the move.
I would draft Brock Bowers. I say what all to say. I would draft Brock Bowers.
So like, okay, well, and this will be a fun debate we'll get into later. Would you take Brock Bowers over Malik Neighbors?
It's possible.
Would you take him over? Really?
It's possible. It's very
okay.
Possible. I think here's the thing. Like I said earlier, I'm drafting a specialist here, and if they develop, they develop. Brock Bowers is as good of a receiving tight end as I've ever seen come out of college. He's right there with Kyle Pitts. He's right there with anybody you could have possibly have asked. And if he's not ready to block, I'm drafting him knowing that, hey, I don't really give a damn.
Yeah. I like Bowers, but I mean, I'll be honest, man, when I look at this, like when I look at the like tier of player that I think will be like the fourth or fifth receiver taken or the fourth or fifth tackle taken, you know, it just that's the only thing. But that's a discussion for a later date about our positional preferences and everything. Because again, I like Bowers a lot too, but man, I'm just like, it's tough, man. Because I mean, you think about like
Bowers would be illegal. I'm telling you,
the career route. I think we want to see a lot of these guys go on. Like, I think it's just so much easier to project a lot of these other guys.
I don't know about Bowers. I think he could have 1,000-yard year one if you really put him in position to do it. I really do. I think he's that good and talented of a receiver, especially when you start talking about the kid after catch, like the whole package. He's a monster after catch. He has really good hands. He's a good route runner. He's fast. Like I'm so big. So I'm not disagreeing with you totally, but I'm big on exceptions to the rule, and I think Bowers is exception to the rule in my book.
You would have said the same thing about Noah Fant, though.
No, I wouldn't have. Noah Fant is not the same. We're gonna move on to the offense because we're talking about Broncos, not Georgia Bulldogs. Let's talk about the offense, Frankie. What did you see in this last game? You know, the Broncos got the W against the Los Angeles Chargers. Offensively, what did you see that went well? What's the best thing you saw?
What went well? I mean, probably just again, I'm going to say the Courtland Sutton catch. I mean, Courtland Sutton just keeps being a highlight reel machine, and Russell Wilson was really good throwing the ball downfield. Like, there was the quote. I'll be honest, I don't know if it was a real quote or not, or if it was one of those meme quotes that people put up on Twitter. The one where Sutton was talking about how Russ throws a gorgeous deep ball. And like, you know, I'm the Russ lover on here, so I got to throw my Russ love. That man does throw a goddamn gorgeous deep ball, man. That thing.
Ooh. When it's not late.
He spin. Oh, that's fine. But he spins that thing beautiful. I just like the aesthetic of it. It's nice to see. So I'd say that. I mean, him throwing the ball downfield, he was accurate. He was doing a really nice job there. So I'd say that. Outside of that, I mean, I don't know. The offense has just been so grimy the past few weeks. I mean, outside of, I think, Sean Payton being amazing and then Courtland and Russell being able to create magic, like, it's tough sledding for this run game or for this offense. I'd say just like as a whole most of the time. So I'd probably say the Courtland to Russ magic would be, again, my top offensive takeaway from the week. Cause I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, Courtland Sutton is real Broncos fans remember that Brandon Lloyd year where it was like he has a 10-minute highlight film off of a year and a half with the Broncos, and it feels like Courtland Sutton is putting together the same type of season. As you mentioned, Frankie, just a human highlight reel out there. The guy has just unbelievable catch after unbelievable catch. I liked Zach's tweet. He put out a little meme. He was like, fuck it, Court's down there somewhere. And it's true. Yeah. The guy's coming down with one-hand catches. He's out physicaling wide receivers at the catch point consistently. And then also off script, he's really good. He's getting open off script. Every part of his game, I think that complements Russell Wilson. Like Courtland Sutton is excelling in this year. Downfield, he's excelling. Off script, he's excelling. Courtland Sutton is fantastic for the Broncos this year. Frankie, this was a question Zach asked me on the last podcast. I'm just interested to know what your opinion is. Is Courtland Sutton a top 10 wide receiver? Is he a top 20 wide receiver? Is he outside of that top 20, so a top 30 wide receiver? What would you go there? And we're going to go off the 10s.
I don't know if I can put like a number on it, you know. I'd say he's probably in that like 10 to 20 range, you know, because like, and I don't want to like, that's not me trying to like beat up on Court. That's me just like, I don't know. I think there are receivers who maybe have some more well-rounded games, if you will, some receivers that maybe bring a bit more to the table. While what Courtland does well, he does exceedingly well. I just think that there are some areas of the game that we see some of the more dominant receivers be able to affect. You know, I think a big thing I've kind of harped on when I think about like 2019 Sutton, who I truly do believe was like a top 15, top 10 wide receiver, or at least on that trajectory. Again, I mean, we've talked about this was the yak numbers. I mean, that was such a big part of his game. Was not only was he physically dominating you in the air, he was coming down from the air, shoving you off, and then running for 8 more yards. We don't necessarily see that as much anymore.
He was a really good screen wide receiver in his career. And then at SMU, he was really good at that too.
Yeah, but then, I mean, also to counter my own statement, I mean, there's so many like the yardage numbers are so misleading because there's so many plays on here where Courtland's running the backside dig, and that is not a Russell Wilson route. So Russ is missing it like 4 times a game and just throwing the dump off, which is kind of like, it's so funny to watch over and over. It's like, God damn it, man. Like, stop calling it. It's killing me. Like, so like, I don't know. And that's not me trying to beat up on Sutton. It's really just an acknowledgement. Like, there are just a ton of really good receivers in the NFL. It's almost hard to even like number it off. Like, it should be like a tier. Like, he's in that probably like just below like truly elite. Like, when I think about like the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, you know, in that truly elite tier, that like 1A, he's probably in that like 1B, maybe like very, very top of 1C. But I think that's where I'd put him. And I don't think that's like a mean thing to say.
If we're going off of, this is going to be controversial because I'm just now looking at a list. I should have done this when Zach was talking to me. I think he's on the bottom of the 20s, probably around. Like I'm looking at at like here. I'll read you 11 Terry McLaurin, 12 Chris Godwin, 13 CeeDee Lamb, 14 Tyler Lockett, 15 Devontae Smith, 16 Jalen Waddle, 17 Keenan Allen, like DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These are hard names.
These are good ass players. Like, right. Like, it's tough, man. Like, and that's where it's like, it's not, and that's again, where it's like, it's kind of hard to number these guys where it's like, he's in and I'd say like a lot of the guys you listed, he's probably in the same like tier as like, especially when I think about guys like Lockett, probably close to Godwin, at least current Lockett. Like when I think about like what current Godwin is, but like again, dude, like every team just has like 2 or 3 of these dudes that are just, I mean, they're ridiculous. So I mean, like,
yeah, I know, but it's hard. Like here's one question, then we'll move on from this: T. Higgins or Courtland Sutton? Which one would you rather have?
I think I'd go Sutton there.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I would go T.
I think I
love Sutton to death, but I think I'm going T. Higgins.
Yeah, I guess it's just a question of like, what do you think Sutton's numbers look like if he's playing with Joe Burrow and not like Russ?
I don't know. I think Russ is kind of perfect for Sutton.
He is, but we're talking about how many, like, he is on the deep balls. Don't get me wrong. We are getting plenty of the highlights, but I mean, we're talking about like, I don't think we're going to see Courtland pump out like consistent 100-yard performances unless he gets literally 3 amazing catches in the game, because we don't see him get the 15-yard digs, and then the big play. You know, we only see really the big play, which is a knock on Russ.
Well, there you go, Frankie. I mean, and on the other side of wide receivers, we had Jerry Jeudy this last week, who I mean, this was the Jerry Jeudy nightmare half, that first half. It really was. It was really bad. 3 just not good plays. Deep drop, didn't drag his toes on a touchdown at the end. What's up with Jerry Jeudy? What did you see there?
It's tough because there's a lot of things going on, and I don't want to just beat up on Jerry. I think that's a very popular thing to do amongst the fan base. It's kind of like I'm not trying to excuse Jerry, but man, his confidence level, he needs a fresh start. He needs a fresh start somewhere. He needs to just go clear his brain. Cause again, it does seem like he's just not the same level of invested as in the game as he was at Alabama. And that's not while it is his fault, it's very tough to watch a guy who I think we all know kind of has more talent than he's showing. I think that there is maybe a bit of a misconception. I mean, we were talking about it before the show where I think Jeudy is the things he's good at, which is his separating ability. He is pretty good at, but I think he is probably more of an average receiver at a lot of the other things. I think there is kind of a disconnect there when maybe the national media looks at him because they still kind of view him as, well, he was this all-star receiver and this top first-round pick, where it's yes, there was immense talent there, but it was also a bit of a projection for Jerry Jeudy coming out. You can look at his pre-draft stuff. He was not a finished product coming out. And it's kind of one of those things where we just haven't seen enough progression in a lot of the areas he struggles at throughout his career so far. I mean, we were talking about it before, his ball tracking ability, I think the hands thing gets a bit overblown, but it certainly wasn't last week. The hands, at least on deep passes, have not been great this year. Just the attention to the little details. You talked about him, not dragging the feet on the touchdown catch. You talk about him, the option routes, which he gets 3 or 4 of a game, and he's just a tick late on getting out of his breaks. There are just so many tiny fundamental details that he just hasn't really picked up on. And, you can blame that on the coaching staffs that he's had recently. You can blame that on the quarterbacks he's gotten to play with. But at the end of the day, I just really don't think we've seen the progression out of Jerry Jeudy that we've needed to see out of these years. And I'd say too, it just kind of sucks. And it really feels like it's just time to kind of move on, because I mean, I don't know where you really go from here with a guy that's going to need to get paid soon. And with how receivers get paid on the open market, I think Jerry Jeudy still probably gets a 3-year, $30 million deal just because he's a wide receiver in the NFL with pedigree. Teams are going to like that. I don't know how Denver can possibly legitimize paying that,
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos should have taken that 3rd-round pick, and I argued for it at the time, and I wish they did it. Adam Schefter came to a radio spot here in Denver and said that a team offered a 3rd for Jerry Jeudy, which would have been fair. That's a fair deal, and the Broncos should have done it, especially kind of knowing that Russell Wilson, even this last week, his touches, it felt like it came off of Sean Payton's media comments and it just really being forced this week into we have to get Jerry Jeudy involved. That felt like a talking point, and you saw it this last week where it happened. He got his targets. But in weeks prior, he wasn't. He finally gets them, and it doesn't work out for the guy. Because it's honestly on him. He fucked the play up a bunch. Yeah. So you should have traded him. You should have traded for him. And it's easy to say in hindsight, but I think a lot of people were saying it at the moment. The Broncos just weren't utilizing him then. They didn't utilize him all the way up to this week, really. And he got his targets, and he didn't live up to it. We need more from Jerry Jeudy. A 3rd-round pick would have gone a long way for the Broncos. Do I think Jerry Jeudy is bad, though? I don't think he's bad. I think is he a wide receiver 1? No, I don't think that's what anyone was ever saying for him, except for maybe when he was fresh out of college. But I think he's a contributor on a team for sure. Oh, yeah. I definitely do think that. But I think a lot of what Russell Wilson's good at, Jerry Judy's really bad at. And I think vice versa as well. I think both of them are just oil and water. They don't really work. It's a terrible pairing. It's hard for Jeudy to do what Russ is really good at, and then also vice versa. So I don't know. I'm kind of over the Jeudy thing. The Broncos, I want him to get his fresh start. I hope he goes to a good team that can end up developing him. Like the Panthers were rumored that this trade deadline, that would have probably been horrendous for him too. He probably would never have developed down there. But there are some teams where he could. Maybe New England. New England was interested in the guy. I think they have an infrastructure at least where Jerry Jeudy can prove his game. Stuff like that. I want to see more.
And then I will say, I guess, like, just to kind of give a little bit of, like, maybe optimism is he does have a great opportunity upcoming over these next, like, 4 weeks to turn it around. Like, this next game he's playing against the Detroit Lions, who don't, I believe we saw Colton Cooper already make the comment, target Jerry Jacobs 1 million times. Yeah, that's who's going to be covering Jerry Jeudy. So let's do that. Then we get, I can't remember if the next game is the Patriots, but the Patriots,
so good,
what does Bill Belichick do? He takes away your number one option. Okay, you're going to have to hit Jerry Jeudy a lot then, you know? Then who do you get next? You get the Chargers again. All right, like we just saw Jerry have a great opportunity against the Chargers to make repeated plays. Like, and again, this isn't me saying like, oh, buy your Jerry Jeudy style. This is me saying, hey, man, you know, you're completely right. The squeaky wheel got the grease this last week. Jerry Jeudy wanted the ball. He got the damn ball, and he didn't show it. Well, luckily for him, he didn't get traded. I don't think he's getting benched, you know? I don't think they really have other guys. No. Like, unless we're going to see Kendall Hinton get pulled up off the practice squad, he might not even still be on the practice squad.
Where honestly, I would have liked to see some of those looks go to Marvin Mims, though. I think seriously, like, especially Marvin Mims is a better downfield target than Jerry Jeudy.
100%. Yeah, no, that I will agree with. The only, I guess, semi-issue I might see with that is that teams key in on Marvin Mims. Like teams know if Marvin Mims is on the field, he's either running a fly route or he's getting a screen pass or he's running an end around. Like, so that I guess I do like that. I guess is kind of that like gray area where like, yes, I would love if Marvin Mims was getting more of those opportunities, but I also understand why when Marvin Mims is in the game, he's not open because teams are like, oh shit, it's number 19 and he's really fast. Let's throw 2 bodies on him and cool.
Totally. But even at the catch point, he's better. Like he's just a
Joey, we were talking about this coming into the season. I remember like saying like, hey man, there's a possible world where by week 6, Sean Payton is watching Marvin Mims create a bunch of explosive plays and he's saying, man, he is already better in some areas than Jerry Jeudy. We were talking about this when Marvin Mims got
he's
drafted.
Better than some areas than Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
I do think though they're very different wide receivers as well.
Like, 100%.
A lot better in the more regular wide receiver game. But like those downfield targets, you would have much rather have seen Marvin Mims in those exact same scenarios as Jerry Jeudy was. But before we move on to the defense, I want to ask you about the Broncos run game because you were talking about that before the show, Frankie. This was not good again outside of some explosive runs. But people know why. Why is the run game not working in your opinion?
Why is I'll be honest, I think a big part of it is the vision from the running backs. This has always been kind of an issue with Javonte Williams, not to try to, throw my boy under the bus, but that's kind of been a little bit of an issue for him. As everyone knows, Javonte is really good at running straight over corners, right? So something he really likes to do is he'll run up to the line of scrimmage, maybe see a bit of an opening, and he'll say, I'm going to bounce this, and I'm going to see if I can beat the corner. And while sometimes he might run straight over that corner, usually those runs only result in like a couple yard pickup. And like, it's just frustrating. The stat I was telling before the game. So he had, I believe, 17 carries for 66 yards last week, which again, like not great efficiency overall. And the efficiency overall in the season hasn't been great. But I mean, he had 2 runs that were 20 yards and 13 yards. If you take those runs out, so what is that? That's 15 carries for 33 yards. Like, it's abysmal. Like, the Broncos run game has been very inefficient. And when you look at a lot of the metrics, like their run block win rate, a lot of their, I mean, when you even just watch the tape, like the run blocking is not a big enough issue where you're like, oh, well, that's why. So like, just disappointing for a team that really needs to be able to like have this running game be a big part of it to open up play action. I mean, they've still been fine. I don't want to make it sound like they're bad by any means. They're still pretty okay by EPA standards. Their success rate is still like okay. It's just one of those things where when you look at the frequency they're trying to run the ball at, when you look at like the setups for some of the runs they're getting and some of like the explosives in the run game that just aren't happening, it's just they need to get more out of this running game. And this offense is built around its running game, and they just are not able to consistently like their early down running offense has been horrible. It's been so bad. They start out every drive, it feels like, with like a 2-yard carry. And like, I get that that's a lot of people can be like, oh, well, they don't trust Russ to throw the ball on early downs. It's like, yes, I understand that. But it's also like, then man, you got to be able to get at least something from the ground game. Cause it's abysmal out here. It's been it's been tough to watch.
Down offense is just shit, Frankie. If I'm being
the entire Broncos early down offense
because they don't have any quick game in the passing, and then their run game just isn't efficient.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw the alternative to the run on that Marvin Mims out, where Russ throws it behind and low to Mims.
Mims has to pull that in.
What was that?
Mims got to pull that in.
Yeah, but that was a terrible throw. Like, let's keep it a buck 50
on both.
Sure, it's the pick ended up being on both, but I'm not taking away from that. It was a really bad throw. It's not an interception if that's a good throw. It's just not.
It's not an interception if an NFL receiver makes an NFL catch either, though.
Yeah, but that's a tough catch. It's not a tough throw.
Whatever.
We know that. That's a tough catch. That's not a tough throw. All the quarterbacks, Brock Osweiler is throwing that on a dime, Frankie. Let's talk about it. Russ isn't good in quick game. That's all my point.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Like that, we saw another throw this year where it was very similar. I forget. And
it was last week?
No, I've been trying to figure out what this one is too, where a cornerback ended up just ripping it out of wide receiver's hands or a tight end's hand on another quick throw. Was it Troutman? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it was like, dude, okay, let's just give us a good throw here where it's not a chance for it to be an interception. Let's get this rolling. It's not. I just it drives you insane. The Broncos early down offense sucks. I want to move on to the defense.
Wait, I got one more offense question. What do you think about Luke Wattenberg filling in at right guard?
I thought he was okay. What did you think?
I thought he actually did okay. Yeah, I thought he looked fine. He had a couple of misses. There was the deep touchdown to Sutton. He did a really nice job, like finding work, and I liked that. So I was actually pleasantly surprised. So that I just wanted to touch on that. Another maybe feather in the hat of Zach Strief, who's just churning out serviceable linemen left and right in Denver.
Juan Martinez asks, he says, so Wilson, more than 220 passing yards this week? It sounds like we're helping for a bet, Frankie. Yes or no? And this, by the way, Juan, this is Frankie putting your money down. You can find him at Frankie Films.
Jesus, okay. 220.
220.
Man, I want to say yes. I'm going to say yes. We're saying yes, bad. That Lions defense has been really bad on drop back success rate over the past 6 weeks. They still don't have Brian Branch back. They still don't have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back. I think Russ can do that. But knowing that, it's probably going to be one of those scripts where Sean's like, you know what? We're just running that lead option call 6 times. And Russ is actually only going to have 170 yards passing, but he's going to have 60 yards on the ground and be our most efficient runner.
I love it. You brought up CJ Gardner-Johnson. When he comes back, if he's actually fully ready to go, that's going to be a big thing for that Lions defense. Just watching him a little bit. CJ Gardner-Johnson is a baller. He is really, really, really good at football. He's a huge addition when he comes back for the Lions. Let's move on, though. We are talking about the Broncos defense. Frankie, what did the Broncos defense do best? It's going to be Vance Joseph related. I know it.
What's funny is, well, I guess it is Vance Joseph related. I'm just going to say my favorite thing I saw is Patrick Surtain. And that's going to be a very under the radar thing because he really didn't get that many targets. But on so many of those, the cover zero calls where we're sending both nickel or both slot players at the quarterback, on a lot of those, the cloud calls where Surtain's having to handle shallow and he's peeling off onto the deeper route. Surtain had a really just fun game against Keenan Allen. So I wanted to touch on that first. We're seeing Vance truly just say, you know what? I've got the guy right here who I'm just going to move him around my defense and tell him to stop you. In the first half, we saw the Chargers really trying to get Keenan away from Patrick Surtain, and it was not working. It was like watching Drew Holiday kind of avoid picks on an NBA floor. Dude's just whipping around out there. They're trying to run so many different bunch concepts with stop fade route right behind it or something. And Surtain is just a beautiful player. I call him a cyborg. He's like the T1000, T2000. I haven't watched Terminator in forever. The dude is just so patient. And when you talk about facing a guy like Keenan Allen, who does so many little things in his routes, when you talk receivers run double moves, Keenan Allen runs sextuple moves where he's fake out, fake in, I'm going to fake curl. Now I'm past it. Oh, I'm back. And
Tell
Patrick
that to
Surtain,
Zach Seegers, Frankie. I don't know if you were paying attention to any of the other podcasts we had. Tell that to Zach Seegers.
what was Zach saying? I missed this one. Hold on. Was he hating on Keenan?
Frankie, it was like disrespectful. Like it was Keenan Allen isn't in my top 50 wide receivers. Before the game, before the game, like his bold prediction was Keenan Allen won't have like 20 yards. Like it was
Keenan's a Hall of Famer.
Where's Colton Cooper? Colton, look at yes, seriously. He's not top 30.
Oh my God, Seegers.
Crazy. Zach was losing. He was calling him geriatric. He was like,
oh my God,
it was the most disrespectful Zach has ever been.
Why? What did Keenan Allen do to Zach? There's some backstory here. There's some clear tea.
No. He was just calling him like he was like Melvin Gordon now in his eyes. Like he was like just everything was. And then I was on here reading out the stats. I'm like, dude, he has like 1,200 yards receiving right now.
Right, bro. He's having a crazy year. Oh my God.
No, Frank, you need to go back and watch that film because it's been like 3 podcasts in a row. Zach has been lighting Keenan Allen up. I don't know why. I don't know.
Well, let me Well, Keenan Allen is pretty damn good.
I think he's really good.
Especially as first and foremost,
he especially as not anybody, and that's what I was telling him.
It doesn't even matter. That's what's even funnier. Dude's geriatric, apparently. He does not have to run that fast. He is unguardable. Like he's ridiculous. So
my argument, Frankie, was pretty much okay. Maybe he doesn't have the downfield explosiveness that he used to have. Maybe he's not catching a 50-yard ball over the top. Like that's probably not happening. But in a phone booth, there's not anybody in the league that's covering a man-on-man. No. If Keenan Allen wants to catch 10-yard anything on you, he's going to catch 10-yard anything on you.
Yeah. No,
that's pretty much what it is.
And we saw that in this game. Like, again, I want to highlight Surtain. There were so many plays where it's like
you on the next show, Frankie.
Little juke mounts, little fucking double moves, and like Patrick Surtain. I mean, we've talked about this since he was a rookie. Patrick Surtain does not bite. He does not get fooled. He does not get tricked. There was like the one play in overtime against Devontae Adams last year was like the one time in his entire career I've ever been like, wow, Patrick Surtain got fooled by a receiver. This was a perfect example of Keenan Allen tried everything in the little black route running notebook he's got, and it did not work because Patrick Surtain is just that good. But there were a couple, there were some of those plays where Keenan's just too good on those quick outs, or just a dig, and he's just gonna get separation and just make a quick little whoop,
he sells everything too good.
And then there's also just Justin Herbert, who I've said this before. Justin Herbert's like one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the league. Like that dude just does everything on a quarterback scope at such a high level. His processing is so good. Maybe he gets the ball out a little quick sometimes, where he's a little bit too willing to just kind of dump it down. But before he got hurt in the Chargers game, he had a couple throws. I was like, oh man, he's still doing. There was the one as silly as it sounds. There was the one where he threw the ball out the back of the end zone and he hit the field goal post. Yeah. And it straight up looked like you seen Amazing Spider-Man when fucking Peter Parker throws the ball. It looked like that. It reverberated the whole thing. It bounced back. Singleton could have caught it 8 yards away. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man.
Hey, Frankie, what's the rule on that, by the way? My dad was asking me and I didn't have an answer.
I would assume it's
hits the field goal post. Is it dead or can someone pick the ball up? Because he was telling me he saw a college game where it hit the goal post and someone caught it for a touchdown and they called it a touchdown.
That's got to be dead, in my opinion. So there's got to be levels to it, though, because I'd imagine the way Herbert did it, I think it's dead because it was going out the back. But what if you had one that was a moon ball and it was coming down and it just nicks the crossbar?
Yeah, or what if it hit the top and just came straight down into somebody's hand?
Coming Saturday, we're doing an NFL rules show where we're breaking down the funniest rules.
If anyone has an answer to that, let me know. I have no idea what the rule is there. Frankie, I'm going to ask you one more question here, completely just quick fire. Another question: who would you rather have, Keenan Allen, Courtland Sutton?
Is it just for one season?
Yeah, one season.
Keenan Allen, again,
who's the better player, pretty much at the moment?
I mean, dude, Keenan Allen's a Hall of Famer. I know that sounds crazy, but Keenan Allen's probably gonna be a Hall of Famer, based on his resume. So it's just kind of I have a pretty hard time not picking the guy who has over 10,000 career receiving yards, which I get. That was, and honestly, I don't even know if that's true, just based on what I assume is Keenan Allen's career, because I've watched him be this good for like 12 years. I'd assume he's one of those guys, and I think Cortland's probably like got like a third of that dude's accolades. Like, it'd be very hard to pick Cortland Sutton, and I love Cortland Sutton, but I mean, it's Keenan Allen. Come on.
Hey, I love it. So my biggest highlight of the game, Frankie, was just watching Vance dial up these blitzes, because it was so apparent watching it live and then even watching the film afterwards. But live, even, it was super apparent. That's why I say that Kellen Moore, the offensive line of the Chargers, whatever quarterback they had in, no one could figure out his fucking blitzes. It was Vance Joseph. When Vance Joseph wanted a free runner at the quarterback, he damn near always got a free runner at the quarterback. It was hell for the Chargers offensive line trying to figure out what was going on with the Broncos defense. We're bringing DBs, we're bringing linebackers, we're bringing anybody. Everybody's a threat to blitz. The timing of it was really good. Players were disguising it really well. They weren't showing their hand early. The blitz was just on point this last week. I have to give some credit to the Chargers there, because I thought they did the worst job blocking up some of these guys. But
even on top of that, like, and I'm not trying to like bash Kellen. Is Kellen Moore just like not that great of an OC? Like, I'm rewatching these plays.
I didn't think that.
This dude has Easton Stick. Excuse me, don't want to insult the Stick family name. Like, he's got Easton Stick in his second NFL start, and they're running like deep drop back game without a single hot read, when like, you're getting blitzed all game, bro. Your starter is out because you were getting blitzed so much. Why do you not have a hot read right now? Like, bro, it was, and me and Jason Bishop, go follow Jason Bishop if you don't, awesome guy. Me and Jason were talking about like some of the blitzes like Vance is letting it hang out. Like, truly, like, he's sending pressures that are just like ballsy. The final sack, I believe, that PJ Locke got that forced the fumble, like, he sent like, I don't even have a name for it. Like, like I do my looking through hundreds of pages of trying to have the right terminology. He just sent the whole left side of the field. That was my note. He sent Surtain.
Is that the one where Surtain was going to?
Yeah, the receiver is just walking up the side of the field. I'm like, oh shit. Like, if Stick looks to his left, that guy probably just scores. But Vance was like, I know that this rookie's not looking to his left, and I know damn well our guys are going to get to him before he gets through his second read. Sure enough, like, dude got blown up. Like, just
that was PJ Locke, right?
Yeah, that was PJ. I mean, and you mentioned it, like, the safeties and McMillan especially, they have been doing such a good job as these creepers. They don't reveal too early. The safeties behind them are doing a really good job not coming up and covering too early. So, like,
or Frankie, even there's levels to it where even the guys that are dropping back will show at the last second.
Yep.
Drop back.
Yep. We saw McMillan do like a delayed rush this week too, where like he does the quick little like let me pretend I'm like dropping on a running back, and then let me come, and the tackle couldn't even handle it. Like, yeah, man. I mean, we're just seeing them play so fast and so free. And I mean, again, Vance just is adding more and more and more every single week. It's so exciting to see. It's one of those things that, like, I mean, we even saw DTY getting in on the action in the sack game. So, I mean, we might get to see more of that this week. It's one of those things where, like, it gets me kind of excited to imagine a guy like JL Skinner getting to get after the passer, because he's another, like, long, lanky frame that I think could do a really good job just getting around these tackles. Like, it's a very fun defense to kind of envision guys playing in,
Yeah, totally. The Broncos really have this blitz down to like a really good point right now, better than I think I've seen it in prior years, truthfully. Just the way they're disguising it and how big of a threat it is. Like,
it feels like a Wade Phillips defense.
Yeah, but even with like Evero last year, like very fun blitzes and stuff like that, I don't know if it had all of like the complexities and like differences the one I'm seeing right now, where I'm looking at every single player on the field, and I'm like, every single one of these last guys is a threat to blitz right now.
Right. And like, you said it perfectly. We're like, Evero's was so much more about like the disguise, the coverage kind of changing post snap, a lot of simulated pressures, which Vance does a lot of too. But Vance's is so much more like, no, we're just going to send it at you. Good luck. Like, it's true. Like, literally just good luck. And it's so cool too, seeing like, pay attention for this next Sunday, listeners, anytime on third down or any of these long, they need to get a conversion plays, this is just kind of the way of the league now. The Rams kind of originated this back in like 2018 when, McVay really started rising to power, maybe more like 2016. Like so many teams run condensed sets. They run these tight formations. Receivers are basically right next to the tackles, or they're running these bunch formations, which that enables your nickel pressures because your nickel corner is already right on the line of scrimmage. You don't have to disguise your creeper. So that is such a big part of this too, is Vance just has such a good recipe for what the current like meta in the offensive game is in the NFL.
I know, Frankie, and it kind of like it gets me more excited with like players like I could envision the developed version of Drew Sanders in this defense just being a fucking monster.
Yep.
I could just see him going crazy. And then I also like, as much as McMillan is an amazing player and I love him at Nickelback and I won't want to replace him, but I imagine like a CJ Gardner-Johnson or some player like that in the nickel spot for them, where we're talking about a player that can kind of do a little of everything, not just your traditional nickel, but a pass rushing safety nickel.
Yeah.
Like it could get really fun if the Broncos keep Vance around, and I do expect it. Before we sign out of here though, Frankie, do you have any last thing you want to hit on with the defense? I see one I wanted to talk to you about, Zach Allen, if that's how you want to sign off.
I'm good with that. I'll do my one little thing. Punt coverage was great again. Shout out Riley Moss and Tremon Smith. Riley Moss has really come alive as like a gunner, and that's fun for nerds like me. But yes, Zach Allen, go.
Zach Allen's really good. I think he's much better than what I initially thought. Early in the year, he didn't look like he had any pass rush, and he looked like a mid-run defender. But as the defense has gotten better, he's looked a lot better. This guy says, "Imagine K1 Williams." Exactly. You're dead on about that. But going back to the Nickelback thing, but Zach Allen has turned into a really, really good interior defensive lineman for the Broncos, and I'm just happy to see it. I think they made the right move now, and that takes a lot for me to say because Draymond is my boy. I love Draymond. That's one of my favorite Broncos in like the last 5 years, I would say. I love Draymond's game. But Zach Allen, I think, is a better, well-rounded player than Draymond was.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think it's crazy to say this. I think Zach Allen's contract is probably a value right now. Yeah. Like, what is he, $15 million a year?
It's a plus.
He's a top 10, top 15, maybe top 20 if you really like. He is one of those elite interior defensive linemen. I know that sounds kind of like I was very much like, I don't know if he can be that. No, like he's one of those guys when you look at like his double team rate, his win rate, in both his counting stats when it comes to pressures and run stops. That's such a big part of it as well. Most of these interior guys that are good at getting after the passer aren't necessarily all that in the run game. Zach Allen is truly both. God damn it, cell phone. He is just such an exceptional player. And when you talk about a lot of these contracts that a lot of these good interior defensive linemen are getting, oh my God, like they're getting like $25 million per year deals. We've got Zach Allen on a $15 million per year deal, and he's only 25, maybe 26 now years old. Like this is really good. And it's one of those things where when you talk about, they aren't really getting a lot from a lot of the other members of the interior defensive line. I think Purcell's having a pretty average season for his going. Like he looks good, but I don't think he's really playing above his level.
He looks better as a pass rusher than I've seen him in recent years, which is weird because he's been kind of a zilch. And I think this year he's been not a plus in the pass rush, but better than he was in last year's.
Yeah. And DJ Jones,
he has games where he looks like the elite run stuffer that I love.
Last week he looked pretty good.
Exactly. He has games. Just more consistent. And I'm talking about I would love Purcell. And I still do like Purcell. I think he's a good player. But, I want that more consistent.
Yeah, but then you talk about the guys like DJ Jones, I think has been probably a little disappointing this year. He's kind of backslid from being truly what I thought was like
he was
just a really stout defensive lineman, like I'm not saying he was going to give you a lot in the pass game, but he was going to give you elite play in the run game. I don't think he's really giving that to you right now. He's still giving you serviceable at times play. He's still giving you good play at times, but it's just not the level it was last year. So when you talk about, I really think you really only have like 1.5, maybe 2 defensive linemen you can count on right now. Like, man, you just swap out like the rotational guys on the defensive line for maybe some younger guys, maybe some just bulkier bodies in that front. Maybe Ayoma Uwazurike comes back and is like a force to be like the fifth or fourth optional on that defensive line, like it can blow up pretty quick. Cause I mean, we were talking about like, man, if this front just had a true like alpha on it, I think the rest of the guys really flourish. I think Zach Allen might be that alpha. If we see another offseason of progression, like, man, I really think he could be like that guy on this defensive front.
Yeah, totally. Well, guys, I think that's all for today. Frankie, that was a great conversation I thought we had. If you guys like and support the Thursday show, give us a like. If you want it more than on Thursday, let us know.
Okay.
This is the first time.
All right. Like,
if you guys want all the day shows, let us know.
Tuesday, 3 a.m., I'm getting a call from Joey like, hey, man, we got to go right now.
Tuesday at 3 a.m. show. Coming to you soon.
It'd be a messy show.
Hey, man, show us some love in the comments. Show us some love on the likes. We're here for you guys. Love you guys all to death. Frankie, where can they find your work, man?
Frankie's Film on Twitter, and then LTB pod. I can't remember the YouTube channel you're watching the thing on right now. Let's talk
Broncos.
Let's talk Broncos. I couldn't remember if it was LTB podcast, Let's Talk Broncos podcast, whatever. It's all
Thursday show. Let's Talk Broncos. LTB. We're out. See you guys. Go Broncos.